and welcome to Symbols and Cynicism, a podcast where we talk about all of the things that I love, some of the things that I hate, and this wacky adventure that we call life. My name is Bob, I'm your host, and I am so glad you are here today for our Star Wars Day Spectacular and Competitive Pay. Let's get started. Welcome back to the program today. The stars have aligned. It is the fourth episode of our fourth season. Overall, it is episode 40, and it is May the 4th today, if you're listening to this on the day that it drops. And so therefore, everybody, May the 4th be with you today. Happy Star Wars Day. By the way, does anyone else out there sort of have to stop themselves from responding and also with you every time somebody says, May the 4th be with you, or May the Force be with you, either one? Maybe it's just my Catholic upbringing. Anyway, May the Force be with you. Some trivia for you. May the Force be with you is said 24 times throughout the movies by a total of 14 different characters. The first time it is said is actually a non-Force user. General Dodonna says it near the end of A New Hope during the Death Star briefing. In fact, of those 14 characters that utter the phrase, several are non-Force users. Dodonna, Han, Admiral Akbar, Vice Admiral Holdo, Admiral Raddus, and Jyn Erso all utter the phrase, even though they are not Force users. It is stated in every movie except one. Do you know which one? I sort of just gave it away if you were listening close. Solo is the correct answer. Nobody utters the phrase in Solo, a Star Wars movie. We have a ton of Star Wars for you today, and we are kicking it back old school for you. We are talking about the Force itself. What is it? How does it work? What's the origin? What's going on with the Force? We're talking about some of our favorite scenes in Star Wars. Cathy joins us to have that discussion. And what says Star Wars more than laser swords? So we're talking lightsabers, how they're constructed, why they're the colors that they are. So some basic Force talk, swords, scenes. There is no negativity today. This isn't about the bad stuff. This is just a fanboy celebration of the best that Star Wars has to offer. After all, I haven't said it in a while, but Star Wars is like pizza. Even bad Star Wars is still better than most other things. So, happy Star Wars today. May the Force be with you, and on with the show. The Force. Let's talk about the Force. I think there's a lot of confusion about the Force and what it is, and there's good reasons for that. The original trilogy, it seems like it's magic. There's not a real clear definition of the Force aside from Obi-Wan while he's teaching Luke in A New Hope. A little later, Yoda gives us some more information in The Empire Strikes Back, but there's still really, it seems like a lot of riddles and mystery. In the prequel era, we get this thing called midichlorians, and Yoda mentions the clouding of the dark side. So there's a little more information there. We don't really know what midichlorians are. It's like, it's a high count, M count. In the sequels, the most recent movies, it's like everyone has sort of forgotten that the Force even really exists. There's not a lot of talk about it except this ancient mythical view of it. So let's talk about what it's not first. The Force is not magic. And the Force is not just a Jedi thing or even just a Jedi and Sith thing. So what is it? Well, it's an energy field. It's sort of like gravity or magnetism. You can't see it, but you can see the effects of it. And if you think about it, gravity is something you don't think about, you take it for granted. It just holds things down to the earth. Magnets, they're just going to stick to metal. You put them on your fridge, you don't think about why they stick, they just boop, they stick. So when it comes to the Force, life itself creates the Force through a collection of microscopic beings called midichlorians. And these are an intelligent life form of their own right that form a symbiotic relationship and are a conduit between the Force, the energy field itself, and the host, the person in this case. Midichlorians are sort of like mitochondria that we have in our bodies doing their thing without us really knowing it. Midichlorians flow through and do their thing without you really having to think much about it. Or maybe like white blood cells that are protecting us from infection and disease without us really thinking about it. The more white blood cells you have, the greater protection you have. Same here. More midichlorians mean deeper connection to the Force. So these midichlorians create an energy field by these cells that creates a connection that binds everything together. The Force connects beings. It connects beings to physical objects. It's what allows them to move things with their mind or push or connect seemingly telepathically. It's not telepathy. It's not telekinesis. It looks like it to us. It's the active Force moving or communicating through this connection of the midichlorians. Again, sort of like gravity holding things to Earth or magnets being stuck to metal. There is a connection. There is a pull there of two forces that we can't see. Also, much like gravity or magnets, the Force has been viewed differently over time, over the course of Star Wars history. In the High Republic era, hundreds, thousands of years before the movies start, there was a deeper, more religious connection to the Force. Each Jedi communed with the Force in their own way. They sought a truly deep connection and understanding of how the Force works in them. There are some beautiful descriptions in the books about the Force being like a song that vibrates and resonates through all living beings. There is a description about the Force being like wind or water, waves crashing on a beach, that power that can be harnessed but can also be forced out of control. But also that Force has a will and a desire in itself. Ultimately, the goal of a Force user is to find the will of the Force and follow the path that it's giving you. The Force can be a guide to what is right. We see Qui-Gon Jinn talking about the will of the Force in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Qui-Gon is kind of old school in his view of the Force. He's a Jedi that still believes in that deep connection. Of course, the Force has a light side and a dark side. We often see these as good being the light side and evil being the dark side, but there are shades of gray in between. Right versus wrong can often be clear, right? Killing is bad, but we kill bugs and pests. What if a loved one is being threatened and the only way to save them is by killing the person who is threatening them? Is now killing wrong? There is gray in between. This idea of gray areas is where we start to see that sometimes the Jedi make poor decisions, and sometimes the Sith are right. We've talked about it on this very podcast. The Jedi don't see things the right way, or they see things the right way and then choose the wrong answer because of it. Sometimes Maul, who is a dark side Force user, does have the right answer and does have the right idea. Sometimes he is correct, and others. Ultimately, a deeper connection to the Force can bring about the right decision, even if it is the difficult one. Those people with high counts of midichlorians are considered Force sensitive, and some of those choose to train as either a Jedi or a Sith. There are some Force sensitive beings, like the Bendu, for example, in Rebels, that chooses a path of neutrality. Others choose a more religious aspect, and indeed there are churches in the galaxy based on the Force, including the Church of the Force and the Guardians of the Wills. The Jedi and Sith are technically a religion, and we see references to this throughout Star Wars, your old religious ways. Ultimately, the Force has been around for 25,000 years, and even those Jedi or Sith that have studied it most extensively never really fully understood it. It's not something you can fully understand. It's not a box that you check. It is mystical. It is ever-changing. It is a living being, the living Force, and therefore changes as people who use it also change. It's not just moving rocks and Jedi mind tricks, but honestly, those are the really fun parts. I'm not sure any of us will fully understand the Force, but it sure is fun to try. All right, welcome to our producer, my sister, Cathy. Cathy, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Bob?
Hey, we're talking about Star Wars, all positive, no negative. It is the just celebration of Star Wars, all of our favorite things. We're talking about the Force, we're talking about kyber crystals and lightsabers, and just all of the cool geek out stuff about Star Wars. And you are here to talk about just favorite scenes from any visual part of the story. You got your list?
I have my list ready to go. This was a hard one to narrow down.
Yeah, I only gave us 5 each, so we'll do 10. I do have a couple of honorable mentions as I was making my list. I don't know how many total scenes in all of the Star Wars visual media, but it's like a lot, right? So how do you boil it down to 5? So just a couple of quick honorable mentions. I love Luke versus Vader in Cloud City at the end of Empire Strikes Back. That's I'm your father. That's, really the first high quality, good lightsaber battle in all of Star Wars. From a
Mm-hmm.
from a release standpoint, or the one in A New Hope is not that great with 900-year-old Obi-Wan Kenobi. I love Kenobi versus Vader in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Their last one, when they throw the rocks at each other, and there's great sound editing when Vader gets half his mask sort of ripped off, and they blend the two voices together. Super cool there. Duel of the Fates from, I know, one of your favorite movies, Phantom Menace, where Maul
Yep.
battles Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon on Naboo. The bad news there is, death of Qui-Gon, but just a great,
Mm-hmm.
great battle. And then another thing is just like all of the comedy in Star Wars, there are so many little one-liners like, that's not how the Force works. And when Yoda says, oh, page turners they are not, when talking about the Jedi texts.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally a stormtrooper will say, like, I can't see anything out of this thing. Just all the little
Mm-hmm.
funny moments in Star Wars. Just good stuff all around.
Yep. You know me, I love all of these things too. So, we have texted many times this week trying to narrow down some of my list. Your list is pretty set in stone, I know, but I had a lot of wrestling to do with the visual media this week.
Yeah, well, thanks for doing that. We are going to start off with our 5th and go to 1. It was really hard. I don't know that it's 1 to 5. It's just how I listed them, I guess. So we're going to start with you in number 5. Now, before you do, I need to say, if you're listening to this and you have not yet watched Maul Shadow Lord episode 8, then this is going to be some spoilers. You might want to fast forward 3 or 4 minutes. And if you hear us talking about Yoda from Return of the Jedi, you're in the right spot. If you don't hear us talking about Yoda, back up a little bit, but if you don't want spoiled on episode 8, Maul Shadow Lord, skip ahead because we are about to spoil, and that's a really relatively new episode. So, hi, this is post-production Bob. If you want to avoid that spoiler alert, you're going to want to jump ahead about 1 minute and 45 seconds. Enjoy the rest of the show. Number 5, spoiler alert's coming. Go for it.
All right, in this Maul Shadow Lord series, I feel like you do. I love Maul. I love the complexity. But in this last episode, there is sort of I'm going to call it a flashback sequence where it is a lot of Maul's prior trauma, and it's a lot of scenes from other animated media, right? And so there's just a lot of tying things in together for Maul's story, and it just so highlights the complexity of Maul that this just really struck me. I texted you almost immediately. We were talking back and forth about it. You were debating kind of putting this on your list, but maybe it doesn't knock out any of your top 5 yet. So yeah, I really like this, and I wanted us to bring in some of the new media to this list, so that we're kind of talking about how great this new Maul series is.
Yeah, the series is fantastic. I think I watched episode 8 before you. I texted you, oh my gosh, this scene might make my list. And I didn't spoil it for you, but yeah, right. It's this flashback PTSD kind of thing where he's reliving all of his worst moments, all these near-death experiences. I think Maul, he is my favorite Force user. There's no doubt about that. He's my favorite, dark Force user. There's no doubt about that. And I think one of those things, and this adds layers to the complexity of his character. Is he good? Is he bad? Is he chaotic, neutral? He's like all of the things, right? Love that scene. Great scene. Good pick by you. My number 5 is going to be from Return of the Jedi. It's Yoda passing into the Force. Luke goes back to Dagobah to complete his training, and they go through a series of things here. And this is, it's the passing of Yoda, so it's sentimental on that level, but also, this is confirmation that Vader is Luke's father. At the end of Empire, Vader, of course, tells him, "I'm your father." You were too young to remember this, but in the early 80s, between between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, there was a large portion of the fan base that thought Vader was lying. This was just it was a prank. We're going to find out that that's not the case. And so then we get this scene, and it's like, yeah, he's your father. Oh my gosh. And then he tells him, well, you're the last Jedi. When I pass, you're the last one. But your sister, you can pass on what you've learned because you have a sister. Like there's a bunch of convergence of really interesting information here. And just, anybody who's a parent knows that a child who asks a million questions like Luke does here, sometimes you just want to roll over and pass into the Force to get away from them. Incredible, barrage of questions. So as a father, that sort of speaks to me like, yeah, I wish I could have just rolled over and died once in a while. I'll go to my number 4. This is from the Rebels animated series. And when we put this list together, I put mine together, you put yours together, and then you noticed what I had already noticed. We've been saying for a long time, animated Star Wars is the best Star Wars. And this list bears that out. We picked our favorite scenes and unintentionally landed on a lot of animated Star Wars. Towards the end of the Rebels series, there is a scene called The World Between Worlds. And this is a great scene for a lot of reasons, but mostly it gives us this really cool, deep understanding of the Force and that we didn't really know before. It also links a bunch of different Star Wars elements together. We do see the world between worlds again in the Ahsoka series. Ahsoka lands there, but that is not her first time there because she's in this scene also. So the world between worlds is a vergence in the Force. And we've talked about that before. There are these things where there are hyper connections of Force activity. Sometimes that's people, such as little Anakin. Sometimes it's places, like Dagobah is one of those places. And so there is one of these places on Lothal where a lot of Rebels takes place. And this Vergence has created doors and pathways into different points of space and time in the Star Wars universe. I mean, this is the closest Star Wars has, for now, to a multiverse where you can cross over into other points in time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not get all geeky with the multiverse, but it's sort of that same concept. So,
Mm-hmm.
so on Lothal, there's this painting of the Mortis gods. Interesting, right? So now we've brought in some Clone Wars and the Mortis arc in. And so Ezra goes through this portal into the world between worlds. He doesn't know where he is, but he hears Obi-Wan's voice and he hears Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
He hears Qui-Gon. He doesn't even know who Qui-Gon is, or like Qui-Gon was dead long before Ezra was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the very clearest things he hears is Obi-Wan saying, "It's what binds the galaxy together," kind of indicating like this is one of those spots. This world between worlds binds everything together in the Force. And of course, he's walking down this path, sort of very mystical, starry kind of place. He's walking down this path. And as he walks down, he hears some animated, some live action. He hears Leia's voice saying, "Obi-Wan, you're my only hope." He hears all of these voices from all of this different media. As he walks down, he lands in front of this portal, and there's Morai. Morai is the bird from Mortis that then follows Ahsoka. And Morai was the bird from the daughter,
Mm-hmm.
the perfect embodiment of the light side of the Force. And he reaches through this portal because he sees this scene from earlier in Rebels that Ahsoka is battling Vader in the Sith Temple. It's from the end of season 2. We might talk about this scene again later in this program. And so he reaches through and grabs Ahsoka before Vader can kill her. And then they have this conversation and they end up seeing Palpatine. I don't know. It's a really cool scene because it's something different in the Force than we'd ever seen before in Star Wars. And we get all the flashbacks of the voices.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I don't know. For me, it's one of the best scenes. Obviously, that's why I put it on my list.
It's very cool and it's very complicated. And it's one of those scenes that I think the first time I saw it, I went back and rewatched it, like didn't rewatch the whole series again that moment, but needed to watch that episode twice. The confusion of Ezra at the beginning is like everybody's kind of confused about what this place is. We hadn't really seen that thing before, that place, that, I don't know, multiverse kind of thing before. So I love the way it tied all of the old and new together and all of those complicated Force users and conversations and, ties all of that together. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, totally. What's your number 4?
So there's a theme of Maul around here and Ahsoka, and because we love them so much. In Clone Wars, there is a scene between Maul and Ahsoka, and they have this battle, and it is this lovely animation, like beautiful footwork of the battle happening between them. They're kind of battling along a, I don't know, scaffold thing I don't know what to call that thing, but it's this complicated contraption that they're battling on, and they are just like, he's telling her the truth over and over again, kind of challenging what she knows about the Force and about Jedi, and Maul is always telling people the truth, and she is just kind of this younger person and he is this Sith Lord, but she is holding her own in the battle. And I don't know, do we need another spoiler alert for this one? This one's old, but
No, it's older than 6 months. We're fine.
She not only holds her own, but kind of looks to be trapped at the end, and then things reverse course and she uses the Force in this ridiculously powerful way, and he ends up being trapped. And so kind of up to that point, nobody's been able to hold Maul down for very long, and now all of a sudden, little Ahsoka is the one that's taking him out and trapping him, and they imprison him because of that, and it's just an incredible battle scene. It's good animation. Sometimes animated fight scenes can be cheesy, and generally we like them in Star Wars, but I love, even at one point, they focus on the footwork. Like the only thing on the screen is their feet because it's
Mhm.
them kind of dancing along this contraption. Yeah, it's a great battle as Star Wars battles go.
Yeah, you're talking about the very end of Clone Wars. I don't know if it's not the last episode. I think it might be the second to last episode of Clone Wars. And this is the part of
Yeah.
the animated series that overlaps with Revenge of the Sith. And so Maul is chronologically, if you lined up the portions that overlap of this part of Clone Wars with Revenge of the Sith, Maul is the first one to know that Palpatine is a Sith Lord officially, because he tells Ahsoka at the beginning of this sequence, like, Lord Sidious, he tells her about Sidious and that Anakin's going to fall, and she doesn't believe him. Like, that's another instance of Maul being right. And we don't give Maul enough credit because we consider Maul a bad guy. And so, well, bad guys are never telling the truth. But man, like, yeah, great scene. That was actually on my honorable mentions list. It's one of my favorite lightsaber battles in all of
Mhm.
everything of Star Wars. And yeah, absolutely fantastic. Let's go with your number 3.
My number 3 is just based on, like, it's a cute, emotionally sentimental scene that I really enjoyed. In The Force Awakens, they're trying to figure out where Luke is. They can't find him, can't find they don't know, I guess, that it's an island maybe at that point, but they know he's somewhere and they can't find him. And BB-8 has this incomplete map. They can't find the lost chunk of the map, and all of a sudden R2D2, suddenly is awake and rolls across and inserts a map hollow into the map hollow that BB-8 has projected, and they merge their maps, and it just becomes much more obvious where Luke is hiding out. And I just really enjoyed kind of the bonding of the two, the old and the new, and maybe this is like a trend in my particular my particular top 5 here is, has a lot of the old and new coming together. And BB-8 and R2, a lot of people think the droids are not like main characters, and I definitely disagree. They project these two maps up, and it kind of solves all the problems, for that moment anyway. And I just love the two of them coming together. So R2 is not this obsolete thing that they're just ready to trash. He's actually really necessary to this discovery.
We are only talking about good things on this podcast, so I am just going to skip over the rest of that. Say, I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Good job.
And I'm going to go to my number 3. And this is, again, I'm bouncing back to Rebels. I referenced this scene a little bit with my number 4.
Mhm.
This is the Sith Temple in Rebels. It's in season 2, where Ahsoka battles Vader. So Ezra has been at this Sith Temple, and he pairs with Maul. Here we are again with Maul, the best, right? And they unlock the Sith. They're looking for knowledge of etc. in their Sith holocron. So Ezra's at the top of this temple, and Vader flies in. He's on his TIE fighter, but he's standing on top of his TIE fighter. He doesn't fly in it. He flies in on it, which means, number
Very
1,
cool.
he is flying the TIE fighter with the Force because there's nobody in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. And then,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, he and Ezra get a little snarky with each other, right? Like, the dialogue here is just great. Then Ahsoka steps in, and the dialogue, one of my favorite lines right here in all of Star Wars is, she is clearly seeking revenge. And Vader says, revenge is not the Jedi way. And Ahsoka responds with, I'm no Jedi. Because of course she left the order, and she still I think she left the order because she's actually more like a Jedi than most of the Jedi at that moment. That's kind of why
Mm-hmm.
she leaves. And I think Yeah, I say all the time she's my favorite Jedi, even though she's technically not a Jedi. She acts in a way that is more Jedi-like than most Jedi. And they have this
Mhm.
great, just this great battle against each other, and she kind of chops off half of his mask. Very similar to what Obi-Wan does to him in the Obi-Wan series. It's not quite as long of an edit here from a voice edit standpoint, but kind of the same idea where you hear half of Vader's voice and half of pure Anakin's voice. And in real life or original life of this, we never see the end of this battle because as Ezra and Kanan get back on their ship, the temple closes and they don't get to see the result. And it kind of left us with a cliffhanger at that point. It's when you pair it with the World Between Worlds scene that you know that future Ezra reaches through the portal and saves Ahsoka from Anakin. And then at the end of World Between Worlds, she jumps back through the portal later in time. Vader's gone and she's alone at the top of the Sith temple. This is also, there's Maul in this episode. This is the episode where Kanan loses his sight. There's a lot of things that happen in this episode. But I love that battle. I'm no Jedi. That's one of the greatest lines in all of Star Wars.
Mhm. And it's great when you finally get to the World Between Worlds scene, because you watch Clone Wars, then Rebels, and you got to get to the end of Rebels to get to the World Between Worlds. And when you realize that, like, oh, that wasn't the end of that temple scene, but you had to, watch, I don't know, 3 more seasons or something to get to the end of that.
Yeah, it's
It's
two.
great.
It's Rebel season 2 to Rebel season 4. But I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's, even if you're watching it streaming and watching, multiple a day,
Yeah.
it takes a while to get through.
Yep.
And until you've watched it a bunch of times, I don't know that you would necessarily realize that those two scenes are linked necessarily.
Mhm.
Maybe.
Mhm. You made sure that I knew the first time I watched World Between Worlds.
Yeah.
You kept asking me these
Yeah.
Socratic questions of like,
Oh,
where do you know this from? What do you
okay. Now go
see?
back and watch. Okay, now go back and watch this episode because they're the same. I
Yep.
just, that's again, animated Star Wars, man. They're linking two things that are 2 seasons apart. And that's the brilliant. I have said a million times,
Mhm.
Dave Filoni is an American treasure. And this was him. This was him planning all of this
Yep.
out, knowing the story so well and knowing what happened in the past and putting it all together, linking it all together. Just
And
absolute
that
brilliant.
and this is why we say it's fun to watch Star Wars the first time with someone, right? With someone who it is
Yeah.
their first time. You enjoyed texting me all of those things, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right, my number 2. This is a pretty simple one.
Mhm.
Vader at the end of Rogue One just murdering everyone in that hallway on the ship. I think the criticism of this scene is, oh, it's just so much fan service. Great. Serve me. I'm a fan. I want to see Vader murdering people. And it's
Mhm.
great because we had never seen this. Not really. Like
Yeah.
Vader kills Pete, chokes a guy over Zoom call, or he murders, and he's clearly a bad guy. But he is the in the original trilogy, like the aura of him, in my opinion, is way worse than anything that he actually does. Right?
Yeah,
Like
the threat of him.
yeah,
Yeah.
the lore and the legend of all of these things, we never actually see it. The worst thing he does probably is in Revenge of the Sith, like trying to kill Obi-Wan, murdering the kids, probably at the end of
Mhm.
Revenge of the Sith, I guess would be the worst thing, right? In the temple, sort
Yep.
of wiping out everybody. But he's not even, he's Vader, but he's not Vader. He's not in the black and the cape and the hood and the mask and
Right.
all of that sort of stuff. As Vader, man, this is it. He just mows through this hallway. He's the lightsaber, the force. He's throwing guys, stabs the one guy through a door and then opens the
Mhm.
door with him still attached to, like, just, yeah. I love that scene. I could put it on loop at my funeral. It's just fantastic.
Noted. I'll make sure that happens. I love how that whole ending ties into A New Hope. Like, it just connects that so lovely. It's just great.
Yeah, like minutes, right? There's minutes
Hmm.
between the end of Rogue One and the beginning of A New Hope. Like, that's it. Minutes. What's your
Yep.
number two, speaking of the original series?
Speaking of the original series, so much to your dismay, I love Return of the Jedi, mostly sentimentally, right? I get how many problems there are. It was my first real life as a little kid exposure to Star Wars, Return of the Jedi. So, as part of that, one of my favorite scenes in it is in the sand, on the sand dunes towards the end. Leia is chained up and in her stupid bikini, and she manages to kill Jabba the Hutt. And I just, even as a little kid, thought that she was the coolest. And so, yeah, that just, it had to make my list. I know it's not like great videography. I know there's all kinds of issues, but yeah, I like her kind of being capable in her own ways in that scene, which was kind of a big deal in 1980, whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of foreshadows her as General Organa later,
Hmm.
right? And I mean, she holds her own throughout the original trilogy, especially for a female character in the late 70s slash early 80s. She is definitely a strong character, and especially in a sci fi picture. Other than Sigourney Weaver in Aliens, who's about this same time, who was, I mean, Ripley, just she is the boss, right? Like she is
Hmm.
amazing. Like Leia's next, I think, as far as strong female sci-fi character. And she's not afraid to grab the gun from Han and start shooting people, and she's not afraid to stand up to Vader, and that's kind of what leads to Alderaan getting destroyed, is her standing up to Vader. So, yeah, interesting thing about this scene is originally Jabba was not supposed to be a giant slug.
Right.
Jabba originally cast was a just large, gross, fat, greasy guy, right? Mobster, fat, ugly mobster kind of guy. And so after filming that in A New Hope, he was supposed to be in A New Hope. Right after the scene where Han is hired by Obi-Wan and Luke, there should have been, it's in the remake now, and you see Slug Jabba. Originally, that was filmed with human person Jabba, and in the final edit, it was cut because George Lucas didn't like, that's not what I want Jabba to look like. He couldn't go back and redo it, and so then Jabba enters later as this giant slug thing, and thank goodness, right, that it's not just
Yeah.
a person, because Leia killing just a guy would
Just
be
a dude.
fine, but yeah, how she takes the chain and pulls him and strangles him. Another
Hmm.
interesting factoid about this is, they've got Leia in heels, of course, because everybody
Hmm.
wears heels in a bikini, right? And when they were filming this, the first time they did it, and she's supposed to step around him and take her chain and strangle Jabba, there are actors inside of Jabba's suit controlling the leg or controlling the tail and the arms and so forth. They're actually inside the suit, and it was just foam, and her heel poked through and injured the person in the tail that was controlling the shaking of the tail, like in the head, like head injury from her heel. And they had to sort of stop filming and take care of that. And I mean, the guy was all right. Everything was fine. But just so there you go. A little piece of
Yeah.
Star Wars trivia for you. What's your number one favorite scene?
All right. So my number one scene is actually 3 episodes, which I know breaks all the rules,
Yeah,
but were there rules?
that's not a scene. It's an hour
Okay.
and 20-minute
It's,
scene. You can't. All right, whatever.
are we making rules? I don't know.
It's
Go with it.
it's my
Um,
podcast. I make the rules. These are my rules.
all right.
And
I'm going to
I
pick one
said, and
scene.
I said to my producer, "Hey, what do you think about top scenes?" And you said, "Yes, that's great." And I picked scenes, and you picked an entire arc of episodes.
Dude,
No,
there's
but
no
go
better
ahead,
Star
Mortis. No,
Wars than
go ahead.
animated Star
No,
Wars.
let's go, Mortis.
I'll,
All of season 3. Go. That's your
I'll,
favorite scene is all of Clone Wars. Fine.
all of
Go.
Clone Wars. Do you disagree? It's the best Star Wars. All right, so I'm going to talk about the 3 episodes, but there is a scene within it. But most people who are average Star Wars watchers don't know what Mortis is. And it is this other world where this father and daughter and son live or exist who are kind of the embodiments of the Force. And I'm sure you would describe this better than I will, but Obi-Wan and Anakin and Ahsoka go to this place and they kind of end up there. They're sort of pulled there, I guess. I don't know how to describe that. They sort of lose communication with the clones, and all of a sudden they're on this other world, and it's a very cool place. It kind of has these other laws of physics, sort of. The seasons change by the time of day, and they're very confused. It's very disorienting, and they learn a ton about the Force. And Anakin, in particular, learns just an entirely different understanding of the Force. And I think it's beautiful. It does have the daughter who turns into the bird, and the son who, is some kind of other creature. I don't even know what the name for that is. They exist as the light and the dark, and the father represents the balance, and the father is deteriorating. And so they have to figure out what the new balance will be. And the father is convinced that Anakin is the chosen one to bring the balance, which kind of ties in a lot of the other ways that, even when Anakin is a child, they're talking about him bringing balance. He's the fulfillment of prophecy, all of that. And so the Mortis scenes are just another way that Star Wars kind of stretches our understanding of this universe. And my favorite scene within that is as Anakin meets the father and kind of kneels at his feet, and Anakin starts having these visions of his mother, but Obi-Wan is having visions of Qui-Gon, and Ahsoka is having visions, and like everybody is having their minds blown, and they're all kind of seeing their own versions of ghosts. Ahsoka actually sees her older self talking to her, so it's not just like the past. It's kind of everything. And Anakin hears Qui-Gon, and they're all kind of merged. And I just think that it's very cool how even this far into the Star Wars universe, we can get this entirely different understanding of the Force. And it reminds me in that way a little bit of the World Between Worlds kind of scenes from Rebels. Like, just this different explanation or different understanding of the Force is just blows my mind.
Yeah, and when you watch that arc just in Clone Wars, and then you never see it again in Clone Wars. I mean, that's sort of it.
Mm-hmm.
The bird continues to follow Ahsoka. Morai is the name of the bird. So that's like, okay, cool. But because of this light versus dark, and the father is the middle, at the end of that arc, when they're back with the clones and they're like, oh no, we were gone for a week or whatever, and the clones are like, what are you talking about? It was 30 seconds. You sort of
Mm-hmm.
think like, okay, this was a dream or a hallucination or something. And it's not until you watch more Star Wars and you see the Mortis gods appearing in they appear in Rebels, they appear in Andor, they appear in Ahsoka. They're the huge statues at the end of season 1 of Ahsoka when they go and they find Ezra. Like, that's the Mortis gods tipped over, right? Like, there are so many references to the Mortis gods that if you just watch this series, this arc of episodes, and think, oh, that was cute. No, it wasn't cute. It's the whole thing. They potentially created the world between worlds because they are the
Mm-hmm.
ultimate embodiment of the Force. They're the ultimate virgins in the Force is these three. One of my favorite arcs of all of Clone Wars. Absolutely. It's hugely impactful to the entire thing.
And you really see Anakin have to make a choice, and his wrestling with that, and him thinking that choosing peace for the universe means going with the dark side. that's what will bring peace, and his desire is to bring peace, and he has this foreshadowing of strangling Padme and all these terrible things he's going to do. And so yeah, it's just a really bringing all of the things together, even from the movies, tying it together.
Yeah, the only regret about that whole storyline is that it's in season 3 and the animation
Hmm.
is not yet great, right? Like it's good, but later seasons of Clone Wars, the animation is just so much better. There's so much more depth to the visual in later seasons.
Yeah, but no negatives today, man. No negatives.
Okay, you're right.
What's your number one?
This isn't in for me. This isn't even close. And I watched it again today before we recorded. This is absolute peak storytelling. It's the
It's
very
beautiful.
last scene, Clone Wars season 7, episode whatever it is, the last episode. It's the last scene. The music is freaking brilliant. The cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. There's no words. It's like a 5-minute scene. There's no words. The only real human thing close to it is you hear Vader breathing just a little bit. So Ahsoka and Rex were on a ship. They crashed. They crashed the ship. And now this scene picks up with Rex and Ahsoka, and they're burying the dead clones, which, because of Order 66, had just been trying to kill them. And so Rex is putting the shovels back on the ship, and he kind of looks and he sees Ahsoka standing, and they pan in to Ahsoka, and there's this beautifully animated smoke that's still from like the smoldering wreckage of the ship. And Ahsoka is just standing and she's looking out over the graves as this smoke goes by, and she looks down at her lightsabers and realizes that these are the lightsabers that just like a day ago were given to her by Anakin when he was still Anakin. And he goes to
Hmm.
take care of one thing, and she goes to take care of Maul, which you referenced on Mandalore earlier
Hmm.
ago. And she looks at these sabers and she just drops them. She lets go and walks away. She lets go of that moment. Time passes and Vader flies in, and he's got his stormtroopers there, and he's looking for survivors. We know time has passed because there's a lot of snow on the ground. It's probably been a while because the season has changed, or it was a flash snowstorm, maybe. But he walks up and he stands now where she stood, and he sees the helmets that are now on the ground from the stormtroopers that she had sort of put on pikes as memorials to the buried clones. And he kneels and finds her lightsaber and picks it up, and he knows it's hers because it's the one that he had repaired and given to her just before they parted ways for the very last time. He looks into the sky, and Morai, Morai
Hmm.
flies overhead, and he hears Morai sort of squawk, and he see like that's Ahsoka's bird, and he sees that fly away like Ahsoka's gone, sort of indicating to him that Ahsoka's alive. It's okay, and she has moved on. And he takes the saber with him as he walks away, and the camera zooms in on the last of the clone trooper helmets, and you see him walk away in the reflection on of the visor on the helmet. Just, I mean, it is just heart wrenching. The music underneath it is perfect. I think it is the end of that part of the story that Revenge of the Sith wasn't. In Revenge of the Sith,
Yeah.
we have, Padme's funeral, and we have, Vader waking up, like that whole Frankenstein scene where he screams. And
Hmm.
like, okay. But like to me, this was the version of the story that wasn't. because that kind of closes a chapter, right? Like Vader's Vader. This is the Empire is the thing now. It kind of turns the page into that new chapter. And I think it's just absolute perfection, peak Star Wars in every single way.
And it really ties in that emotional piece of the end of Anakin, beginning of Vader that is not in the movies, right? It gives that, like, he is still looking for Ahsoka in that, he's still the Morai appearing as kind of that assurance or whatever, but it's just a little more emotional than the clear cut Anakin wrestled, now Vader is bad. And a lot of these, right? We talk about that with Maul. We talk about it with Ahsoka saying she's not a Jedi, even though she's sort of more Jedi than anybody else. And this grayness of all of them becomes so much more apparent in the animated Star Wars, which I think is what makes it better Star Wars. And this scene is part of that. It does tie those things together, but it does it in such a better way with more emotionality. And like you said, the animation is beautiful, the music is beautiful. It's a great scene.
Well, yeah, and that's a great point. And, it's another example of Vader caring about Ahsoka. We hear all this stuff in the original trilogy. We hear, like, I still feel good in him. Luke continues to say that, right? Like, they're still good. I feel the good.
Mm-hmm.
But when you watch just the original trilogy, you think, what are you talking about? Like, he's not good. You don't see the good. But when you see him battling Obi-Wan in the Obi-Wan series, and he hesitates to kill Obi-Wan, like, that's why he loses those battles. He does hesitate. And in the Sith Temple with Ahsoka that we talked about, he hesitates. And here, he still is attached to Ahsoka, even though he's Vader, right? So there's always this tug with him where he's obviously a dark side villain, but the redemption arc at the end of Return of the Jedi isn't just flipped the switch, he's a good guy again.
Mm-hmm.
Just like in Revenge of the Sith, it's not flip a switch, he's a bad guy. You have to watch the animated series to see the continuum of Vader not going from black to white, but through all of these shades of gray, and there's all of the things all the time present. Yes, he's a bad guy, but the good is always there somewhere. He has that tug of the people that he loves.
Yeah, his attachments are his good and what makes him bad, right?
Oh, yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah, the attachments are the downfall. I mean, Yoda was right.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. Hey, this was fun. All positive, except one comment that I made about the animation in season 3. It's still great animation, just not as great as it could be. And by the way, no spoilers here, but the animation in the Maul series.
Oh my gosh.
Freaking next level. Right?
Unbelievable.
Next level. So, all right. Thanks for joining us today. I don't know. I might go watch some Star Wars while I eat lunch here. So,
may the Force be with you.
Indeed. We'll see you another time. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Let's talk lightsabers. Does anything say Star Wars like a lightsaber, a light sword, a laser sword? By the way, lightsabers is one word, Lightsaber. A lightsaber is a sword. We've seen them all. Typically, they are used by the Jedi or by Sith or sometimes other Force-sensitive users and sometimes by non-Force-sensitive users. We'll get a little more about that in a minute, but if you are Force sensitive, it is easier to use a sword and you will be more effective in using it. The blade itself is made of plasma energy, which is emitted from a metal hilt. Inside the hilt is a power cell that creates the energy itself and a kyber crystal, that's Kyber, which amplifies the energy from the power cell and creates the color and shape of the plasma beam. The blade that's created can cut through nearly anything, not everything, but most things. In the old days, a Jedi was required to construct their lightsaber, usually a part of the youngling training process. This practice eroded after the fall of the Jedi, and during the rise of the Empire, the practice was virtually completely lost. A couple of reasons for that. One is there were not a lot of Jedi around to train anybody to do that. The system of youngling to Padawan to knight was lost. Also, a major source of kyber crystals was the planet Jeddah, which was, of course, destroyed by the Death Star. In order to construct their lightsaber, a youngling must first acquire a kyber crystal. They were not just given a crystal to use, they participated in a rite of passage event known as the Gathering. They would travel either to Jeddah or Ilum to collect their crystal. Each crystal is unique and must share a connection to the user. Once in the cave on either of these planets, the younglings must seek out the crystal that connects to their force. The crystals in the cave are clear, but when awakened by the force of the user, they will glow. When a youngling connects and a crystal glows, they have found their crystal. Harry Potter fans, this might sound familiar. Yes, the crystal chooses the Jedi, as it were. If no crystal glows, the youngling must try again at another time. Their crystal will glow a color which matches the nature of the matching youngling's force. The color of the crystal determines the color, therefore, of the saber blade. A little more on that in just a few minutes. With their crystal in hand, the youngling may now construct their lightsaber. The main hilt can be chosen based on the preference and comfort of the user. There are many options, and that's why we see so many different kinds of hilts for every different user. The crystal, the hilt, and the power cell must now be assembled using only the use of the Force. They're not allowed to use their hands. This is part of the trial of becoming a Jedi, moving from youngling to Padawan in knowing how, through the use of your mind and the will of the Force, to construct your lightsaber. Season 5 of Clone Wars, if you go to episodes 6 and 7, is a wonderful story of younglings escorted by Ahsoka going through this process of the gathering and saber construction. Also, in those episodes is Professor Huang, who has been helping build sabers for thousands of years and is in active duty still with Ahsoka many years later in her live-action series. Of course, he's not still constructing lightsabers, but he does talk about that, and he does help Sabine repair and build her saber. The color of the blade can change over time based on the user. A Jedi who turns Sith can have their blade changed to red through their anger. Sometimes a new saber is constructed later in life for one reason or another, and the new crystal might glow a different color due to the Jedi being at a different time in their training, or a different connection to the Force, a different time in life, and so forth. All of our needs as humans change over time, our likes, our dislikes, and so forth, and why not the same with Jedi? While early colors of lightsabers in the original trilogy were basically chosen for the convenience of editing and what looked best on the screen, over time, color has come to represent certain characteristics. Blue lightsabers are the most common. They represent justice and protection. Green, such as Yoda's, is for wisdom and deep spiritual reflection. Red, dark side, and anger. No crystal, by the way, is naturally red. Red crystals are what is called bled into red by the hate of the user. Purple sabers, such as Mace Windu, represent a balance of light and dark side tendencies, which makes sense because blue, the most common, plus red for dark side, hate, and anger, blue and red make purple. Yellow sabers represent combat skills and spying ability. White is for purity and neutrality, often having been purified from a red crystal and oftentimes being a forced user that is no longer a Jedi, such as Ahsoka Tano's second set of blades after she leaves the Order. She is now a neutral, saber-wielding Force user. Orange is for special training, often some kind of negotiator, and of course, black. There's only one black blade in existence, and we've talked about it already on this program. It's called the Dark Saber, and it represents the leadership of the Mandalorians. Don't you just love the lore behind stuff like this? What says Star Wars more than the Force and laser swords. Honestly, nothing I can think of except maybe one thing, the phrase, "May the Force be with you."
And also with you.
Shut up, Sid.
That's it. No, breathe. Find your happy place.
Competitive pay. Have you looked for a job recently? And I don't mean high school summer job, and I don't mean job in the field of education. For a high school job, you can assume minimum wage, right? For a job in education, you can research the school's actual pay scale. Did you know that all school employees' salaries are public information? You want to know what your local English teacher makes? You can find it. You want to know what your local superintendent makes? You can find that too. And for teachers in general, you can look up the union contract from their school and find specifically what the salary schedule and supplementals are. It's all public information. But in the public sector, it doesn't work that way. When you're searching for a job on job sites, you see this category called pay scale, or sometimes pay scale and benefits. It's usually right there under job duties, responsibilities, and expected level of education. Some employers put a pay range there. They'll put like $20 per hour, or they'll put $17 to $22 per hour depending on experience and education. Or they'll put $20 per hour for the first 3 months and then raises available, or $15 per hour plus incentives or commissions. This is all fine, and if you don't like that pay range, don't apply. Perfectly acceptable. I'm not telling you to pay more. You have to run your business. But some simply put competitive pay. Boy, that grinds my gears. What competitive? Competitive with what? Competitive with whom? Compared to what? Why would it not be competitive? I have never seen super low pay not competitive at all. Competitive pay. This is a job market version of fixer-upper. This is the job market version of, but they have great personality. Look, if you're embarrassed about what you pay, you know that you are going to have to tell me eventually, right? Because if you're going to offer me the job, I am not accepting it without knowing what you are going to pay me. Like, when do you plan to tell me? When I get my first paycheck, like I get my first pay stub, and then I find out you're paying me $15 an hour, or $40 an hour, or $1,000 an hour? You don't want to interview me without knowing my specific qualifications, right? You want a cover letter and a resume and references. Understandable, because you don't want to waste your time talking to me who is not specifically eligible with specific qualifications for the job you have available. And you are willing to list 15 to 20 job duties and qualifications that you want me to have before you'll even talk to me about working for you. And that's fine also. Tell me what I need to know about the job, because maybe I'm not qualified or maybe I'm not interested. You don't want me to waste your valuable time. But then you won't give me even a hint about what you're going to pay me? Nah, man, get out of here with that nonsense. And next time, we'll talk about applications that ask me what my, quote, expected compensation is. Look, either tell me what the pay range is, or have us all assume that you are so cheap that you are too embarrassed to tell us beforehand. But that's okay. I'm sure your bright, shining personality makes up for your super low wages. Competitive pay. I feel better. You feel better? All right, homework for the week. If you were with us last week, and if you weren't, please go back and listen. We are in a series of homeworks with Dawn and I talking about summer beach reads. They're not necessarily beach reads. Some of these we did actually read at a beach, but they're lighter, they're fun, they're, nothing super duper deep. Just books you might want to read on your summer vacation. So I think I'll go first this week. I went with 2 Star Wars books this week. The first one is The Last Command. It's written in 1993 by Timothy Zahn, that's Z-A-H-N. And this is a post Return of the Jedi. It's actually a series of books known as the Thrawn Trilogy. So my second book is actually just all the books of the Thrawn Trilogy. And for those of you who have listened to the show, I always ask all of my guests on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you're not sure who Luke's father is, to 10 being you know about Luke's evil clone, where do you rank on the continuum of Star Wars fandom? The Last Command will teach you all about Luke's evil clone. So that's why it's on my book. And I've always said, all of the Star Wars novels, they are summer beach reads for sci-fi fans. They're light, they're fun, they're interesting, but nothing too heavy or too deep. What do you got this week, Dawn?
All right, so I love Star Wars movies and series. I do not love to read Star Wars. Just not my favorite genre. Sure. So I decided to go with 2 books that I actually read at the beach or on vacation. They're both set on the ocean, and they're 2 books that are on my list of books I always recommend. When somebody says, I need a book to read, these are my go-tos, because I feel like just about anybody can enjoy these. So I'm going to start with Remarkably Bright Creatures by Van Pelt. And I hear that they're turning this into a movie or series with Sally Field. So that's also cool. Yeah. But this one is an older single woman who gets a part-time evening job cleaning at an aquarium and befriends the octopus. And some of the chapters are from the octopus point of view. And I know it sounds weird and crazy, but it is just sweet and heartwarming, and it's a mystery, which are my favorites. But yeah, it's just different and clever, and it's set in an aquarium near the ocean. So it's a perfect beach read with all the sea creatures. And then my second one is one of my favorite books I've ever read is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. It's technically YA, and as the title suggests, it is set by the Cerulean Sea.
Shocker, spoiler alert.
Yeah, an orphanage for magical creatures, not witches and wizards, so not Harry Potter. There's a little blobby guy, and there's a phoenix, and there's a yeti, and all these different magical children. One named Lucy, who is the Antichrist as a child. Lucifer. Yeah, it's super, super weird and super, super just delightful.
I've heard you recommend that book 75,000 times, at least. I've never read it. I've never read actually either of those books. Last week, we had both read each other's books. This week, not so much. You don't read Star Wars novels, and those are 2. I have heard you recommend those a million times. I should probably read them. We probably own them. I could just pick them up and read them. Maybe those should be my summer read.
There you go.
So that's our recommendations for this week. We'll see you again next week. Okay, that's the show. Make sure to leave a rating, drop a comment, or send a message on the app of your choice. You can text the show using the link at the bottom of the description. You can check out our merch store at themarchingarts.com/RHS, and be sure to check out our YouTube channel at Robert H. Sloan RHS Music. We hope you'll join us next week for the Clone Wars Season 2, Episodes 20, 21, and 22. And why are you counting the days? Thanks for joining me today. The theme music is Superfly, written by me, copyright RHS Music. The show logo is designed by John Suh, and the show is produced by my sister, Cathy. I hope you'll join us next time for more reflections and rantings on symbols and cynicism.